So a few months ago, they finished building a brand new 55 plus community apartment near where I live. I've been watching it go up for over a year. I'm turning 55 this year, so I just got curious. I pulled up the website. I scrolled through the floor plans and I read about the clubhouse and the activities and the pickleball. But the more I looked, I realized something. I'm never going to move into a 55 plus community. I have a feeling I'm not the only solo woman in her 50s who's looked at one of these places and felt that same hesitation. If you live in one of these communities and you love it, I am genuinely happy for you. This isn't a takedown. There are people thriving in these places, and that's wonderful. But for me, and maybe for you, there are 4 reasons it's not the right fit. And I think they're worth talking about, especially for those of us who are doing this solo. Hi, I'm Michelle, and on my channel we talk about creating a peaceful, confident life after 50, especially if you're living alone, traveling solo, or navigating retirement. The first reason is something I started thinking about as I scrolled through the photo gallery on that website. Every single picture was of people my age and older. Now, on the surface, that sounds nice, right? Your people, your generation, folks who remember the same songs, the same shows, the same way the world used to feel. There's something comforting about that. But the longer I looked, the more I realized people were asked to voluntarily sort themselves out by birth year, to opt into a place where the pool, the walking path, the dinner table, the front yard, all of it would be populated by people roughly in the same chapter of life. And something about that just fell off to me. The richness of my life right now comes from the mix of people around me. It's the younger person walking their dog who stops to talk. It's the middle-aged couple juggling life and work. And it's the older neighbor who has lived through things I haven't yet and has a completely different perspective. That mix, that overlap of different stages of life, that's what makes every day feel alive. I need the full range of human life happening around me, because that's what keeps me feeling alive in mine. I wouldn't want to move somewhere that would shrink that down to one demographic, even a really pleasant one. The second reason hit me when I was reading the community lifestyle page. It was all pickleball, wine tasting, craft circles, and group trips. None of these things are bad. But as I was reading, I noticed something. The whole page was telling me who I was supposed to be there, a retiree. That was the identity. That was the role. That's who you are when you move in. And everything around you, the activities, the schedule, the conversations, the newsletter, all reinforces that. I didn't spend the last 5 decades becoming myself just to conform to retiree. I'm a lot of things. I'm a woman who's still figuring out what she wants the next 20 years to look like. I'm someone who loves a long, slow morning, an interesting conversation, good books, and learning new things. I'm someone who's in this strange, wonderful in-between chapter. Not who I was at 40, and definitely not done, and not interested in being neatly labeled. I worry that moving into a community built around one identity would slowly, quietly shape me into that identity. We become our environment. We become what's around us. And I'm not ready to be flattened down to one word, even a perfectly nice one like retiree. I want to keep being a whole person, a complete, evolving, and sometimes contradictory person. And I want to live somewhere that lets me. The third reason is something I almost missed at first, because it was hiding behind something that sounded really appealing: predictability. These communities are built around it. Gated entrances, scheduled activities, planned shuttle buses. There's a calendar of events for every week of the year. And when I first looked at it, part of me thought, that sounds peaceful. Everything handled, everything orderly, no surprises. But then I caught myself because I've learned something about myself in this chapter of life. Predictability is not the same thing as peace. And too much predictability is actually the opposite of being alive. Some of my favorite afternoons in the past few years have been completely unplanned ones. Wandering into a store I'd never noticed and taking my time discovering all of the treasures. Running into someone at the coffee shop and ending up in a 40-minute conversation. None of that gets scheduled. None of that shows up in a community calendar. And as a solo woman, spontaneity is one of my greatest freedoms. I don't have to coordinate with anyone. I don't have to check in. And that freedom is mine. It's one of the gifts of this chapter. The fourth reason is when you live in a community where everyone is over 55, the dominant conversation over time starts to tilt in one direction. Surgeries, medications, who's not doing well, who moved to assisted living, who's gone. Those conversations are real and they're important. We don't get to pretend this chapter isn't also about loss. But when you live alone, you do a lot of your own emotional regulating. There's no one coming home to shift the energy. There's no kids bursting through the door with a story about their day. The ambient noise of your life is something you mostly create by what you read, what you watch, and who you talk to, and where you live. That ambient noise matters more than people realize. It shapes your inner weather. It shapes what you think about when you wake up at 3 in the morning. And I realize I want my daily soundtrack to have more range. I want curiosity, energy, and different perspectives. I want to feel like life is still expanding and not narrowing. So this decision for me isn't about pretending that I'm not getting older. It's not about trying to hold on to youth or avoid reality. I'm not staying out of a 55 plus community because I'm in denial about my age. I'm staying out because I want to write this chapter, not move into a pre-written one. The real question, I think, isn't where do people my age live? The real question is what kind of life do I want to be inside of every single day? And for me, the answer is a mixed up neighborhood, unscheduled mornings, a mix of people, and room to keep becoming whoever I'm becoming next. That's the life I'm building and the chapter I'm writing. If you live in a 55 plus community and you love it, I am so glad. And it's the right answer for a lot of people. But if you're a solo woman in your 50s or 60s and looking at one of these places and feel like it's giving up freedom, well, you're not alone. But thank you so much for watching.